Hello, hello. We are here again, the Mompreneur Playbook with another episode. This one we were really excited about. We were planning it out last week. And it's kind of the, I don't know, moment that we were like, when it comes to figuring out how to go faster in your business, what is the one thing that you have to do to go faster in your business to meet your goals faster? So we're excited to jump into this. I'm Nicole Mace, Systemize CEO. I am an agency operations strategist and ClickUp implementer. And I help digital agencies transform their operations so they have more visibility on workload, utilization, and profitability. And my co-host here is Spring. Take it away, Spring.
Hey guys, I am Spring Richardson Perry. I am the president and founder of Time to Spring Forward and the mom of this beauty and three others. And I'm excited today to get right into this topic because it's kind of cliche. Go slow to go fast. So let's jump right in, Nicole.
Right. Okay. So this is the Mompreneur Playbook, right? So this is really moms who are diving into the business world, figuring out how to build businesses and run businesses from actually two moms. So Spring is over there taking care of baby Winter. I have a toddler who is in preschool. So that's a good thing for this. But we are still like really in the grind of being moms, being, taking care of little ones, keeping them alive, and then also being business owners. So we're going to dive in. Today's topic is I'm calling it go slow in order to go fast. Let me take a step back and tell you where this came from. Spring and I always talk about how we have these wonderful husbands who are super supportive and who love to give, advice when we ask them when it comes to business. And my husband is an air traffic controller. And so he has always told me that his trainers have always, re-emphasized to him, you've got to go slow to go fast. To make good decisions is better than making the wrong decision, even if you're making it quickly, right? So to go slow to go fast is really something I've had to take on this year. I think Spring and I have talked about before that last year we were going quick. Money was coming in. We were like killing it in the business world, in our own businesses, growing it. But we came to a point this year where we said, we're building businesses that actually don't work for what we want. So let's stop where we're at. Let's rethink about what type of business we want, because we want to have that business aligned with a life that we want before we build ourselves into these cages, essentially, right? So this show is about how to go slow, make good decisions in order to go faster or get to your goal faster. Okay. So
one of those things, Nicole, I'm sorry to jump
go
in.
for it. Listening.
But one of those things about last year was, yes, everything was great, and it on the outside it just looked wonderful. It's literally like drowning and trying to make it all work. And so this year I vowed to figure it out so that I could continue to see the same revenue, but not have to kill myself to get there. So this is right on time in terms of the season I'm in my business, in my life. And like Nicole said, as we were just kind of discussing this and talking about it, it just clicked. It was just one of those things where it's like, we gotta share this, because I know this happens to a lot of people, where you kind of hit a wall and you're like, okay, hold up. I need to take a step back and reassess.
Yeah. And I feel like this is thank you for sharing that. This is such a pivotal moment in the entrepreneur journey, right? So when you step out of corporate, out of your position, out of your ladder climbing career, as most of us do, we go through this transition period of like, I have a skill set. I know my clients, I know the pain points, and I know how to solve them better than most. I'm going to hit the ground running, right? And everyone has to do that. And that's just part of the journey. And when you get to a point where you're like, you're getting leads or turning into sales, you have clients, you're servicing them, but the business model isn't working, or the types of clients you're serving actually is not exactly who you want to serve or how you want to serve them. It's part of that transition period to then stop and take a look at the business decisions that you've made before, the changes that you need to make in order to grow the business that you actually want. That's our goal for today, is to help you figure out what are those decisions that you need to make, those slow but good decisions, in order to expedite your path to the business that you actually want. So I had this feeling, and I will be a little vulnerable. I've been on this entrepreneurial journey for over 3 years, and I have done lots of things in this journey. And my transition period, most of the time, Spring will say, because she has a coach, a career transitions coach, so she helps a lot of women, corporate women, step into entrepreneurial journey, to their journey, if they want to, if that's the way they want to go. She will help them with that transition. And Spring, you have said like 1 year is about that transition period. After so many clients that you've served, it's about 1 year where they have to really figure out who you're serving, how are you serving, what's the business model you're growing. Is that correct?
Yeah, so that's kind of where, because I've been on my entrepreneurial journey now for maybe a little over 2 years. And so, just from personal experience in terms of trying to figure out where am I going with this? What am I doing in my business? It takes you about a year to like really, really sort things out.
Agreed. And I will say it took me over a year. So if you're like a year in, you're like, I'm still not at a spot where I have figured out those core decisions I need to make in order to project myself to the position I want to be in, that's okay. We're just saying around 1 year is what we're seeing. Mine was well over 1 year. So no worries there. And so if right now, if you feel like you are spinning your wheels as fast as you can, but you don't see traction, or if you feel like just uncomfortable or uneasy around the decisions that you've made, but you have to make them and you have to just go, you have to create momentum, this is for you. Okay. So we have been there, we are still sorting some certain things out, but we have come to a position where we have finally figured out those core decisions. And therefore we can actually point all of our efforts to the pathway that we want to be on. So that's the goal for this episode.
But sometimes, Nicole, even in that year, you go through a transition, and then once you've transitioned, you're stepping into your new season. But then there could be a couple of years later, yet another year of transition and stepping into
Yeah.
another version or another season of whatever you need to be in, or whatever your business needs to be in. And so understand that while while you may think, oh, it'll take me a year to figure it out and then I'm always going to have it figured out. No, there's going to constantly be a transformation. This is a journey, not a destination.
Yeah.
And so this journey is filled with all sorts of things. But what we're talking about here, go slow. In order for you to go fast, we're going to lay it out for you guys so that you understand exactly what we're talking about, because there's going to be times when you're going fast, everything is awesome, and then you sort of hit a wall and you're going to have to take a step back. And that can very well happen more than once in your entrepreneurial journey. So I just wanted to mention that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you said that, because that really hits home for me. The first year I met Spring, I was doing something completely different. It was just kind of like what I knew. And then I realized, oh, I have actually these really strong, just natural gifts or talents through a strength finder and through like just reflecting on what I actually love to do for fun. And that actually led me into completely different direction. So it is a journey. And what we want to tell you is that it's okay to test, right? It's okay to make quick decisions and do testing. But what we want to alike this to, or akin this to, is about Southwest versus like American Airlines and like what their goals are. So Southwest, you're going to have a lot of pit stops. It's short flights. That's how they serve their clientele is short flights, budgeted flights, a lot of pit stops. So it might not be the most straightforward pathway to get to the journey, but that's just what they do. And that could be part of the journey that you're on right now. And then when you have figured out these core decisions that we're going to talk about, these 5 core decisions, it's going to be you're moving from kind of a Southwest to maybe like an American or a United. I don't even want to say United because they still have pit stops, but maybe like an American where you're like, okay, I'm here. I'm going to put all of my efforts into this one vehicle and get to my destination, right? Might take a lot longer, but I'm going to be up soaring in the sky and just using that momentum to get to my destination. Right, Spring? That's kind of the metaphor we wanted to use.
I love it. That's the metaphor, absolutely. And again, Southwest is like you're setting small goals, and
Right.
your pit stops are you meeting those smaller milestones leading up to that final destination, which is your bigger milestone. And some people need to take it in small chunks in that way. But on American, right? You can just hop on a flight. For instance, if I want to go from my hometown, which is New Orleans, to New York, there's a straight through flight from New Orleans to New York. Granted, it's about 2.5 to 3 hours, but I'm gonna get there. So during that process, I have time to think about what am I going to do when I get there if I haven't set an itinerary, or um, you know, where am I going to stay if I don't have my hotel figured out yet? Or, what is my transportation going to look like when I get to the airport to get to my hotel or wherever it is that I'm going to be staying at? And those are the things when we think about business, right? You start to think about when I reach this goal, when I reach my destination. And again, don't think of it as a destination because this is a constant journey. But when I get to the first place where I'm trying to go, what am I going to do when I get there? What is my goal? What am I, what do I want to see once I do reach this big goal?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I want to be clear when we say like you are figuring out your goal, it's not that you know how you're going to get there, but you know what your goal is, right? Well, a couple episodes ago we were talking about backwards planning, which is a pretty common concept at this point. But it's not the how. It's not that like you know everything about how you're going to get there, but at least you know where you're going. And so these are the core decisions that we're talking about to determine your what is the goal. Okay. And before we dive in a little bit more, I do want to emphasize the thing that you need to take home with this is consistency and being a specialist in a small pool. So those two things are what we're anchoring these core decisions you need to make. Is it's all about staying consistent and being a specialist in a core group of a target market or something, right? So think about doctors. A specialist doctor is going to get certain clients. They're going to get paid a lot more because they can solve a specific problem for certain people who have these pain points versus a generalist. Okay, so that's where we're trying to narrow you down to.
And if you think about it, right, if you think about your insurance for your family practitioner, you may only pay a $25 copay. But when you go to see the neurologist or the cardiologist, or what's the bone doctor called? I forgot what they're called. It's something with an O. But whenever you go to see a specialist, your copay is more. Sometimes your copay is like $40 or $50 or something like that. And so what Nicole is saying here is, you don't have to be able to do all the things the way a family doctor does, right? They know a little bit about everything,
General.
whereas,
Yeah.
right, just generally, whereas the specialist knows a lot about that one thing. And then many times that's so much better because they can solve the problem. And a lot of times that is the root cause of many other issues that are happening. So if you kind
Mm-hmm.
of think about it in that way, I think that's super helpful in setting goals and understanding what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go overall.
Right. You want to be the specialist, and that comes from doing the same thing over and over and over and over and over and over again. So this is why you need to make these core decisions so that you can do that practice over and over again. So you become so familiar with solving that pain point for those specific people that you're an expert in the area. Okay. So you're a specialist. All right. Let's dive in to the 5 decisions you've got to make. And I will tell you from experience, it is challenging to make a decision. But once you've made a decision, you've now pointed all your arrows to the one direction of where you're going, right? So all of your efforts are going to this one place, and it may take longer than what you think, but at least you are going. At least forward is a direction, right? A forward is a pace. So the first decision you need to make actually goes back to what we're just speaking about, is choose the one pain point or the problem that you solve. So you may have expertise in multiple different areas. I'll take myself, for example. I'm a learning designer by trade and by education and by experience, but I also love operations. And I was doing operations for all these different institutions because their operations were whack. And I couldn't perform my duties because their operations were so bad, right? So then I would go into their online program operations and start fixing their operations for them on the side, because I couldn't design and develop and deliver online courses the way I wanted to. So I had both of these expertise, and you have to pick one problem that you solve. So that's the first thing you got to decide in order to go faster in your business journey. What's the one problem that you solve? Should I go to number 2? Let's just keep going.
Let's keep going. Because I'm thinking, and I'm sorry I paused here because I'm thinking about me and myself and how this truly applies to me as well.
Yeah.
In terms of, again, trying to do all the things, pick one thing, and solve that one problem really, really well over and over and over again. And so, yes, again, guys,
Okay.
we are living the experience as we're telling you guys. So we're not just coming up with this off the cuff. These are our lived experiences, and we want to share that with you. So
right. And so after I said, okay, we've got to help them determine the biggest thing about business is which problem do you solve, specific problem that you solve for a specific group of people. And then Spring said, well, you can solve one problem multiple ways, right? So that just because you solve one problem doesn't mean that, you're putting yourself in a box, although boxes are where the money is. You can't be in that box with multiple different keys to get out of it, right?
Yes. And I was going to say, if you're the type of person, especially like me, that does not like to be put in a box, you can still be creative with your many solutions to this one problem, because people have different perspectives. They see problems differently. And so they may have that problem, but they may see that problem in this particular way. And so if you see it in this way, well, this is how we solve it in your way. But if I have this other person over here who has the same problem, but they see it in a different way, well, this is the way that we can solve the problem the way that you see it. So,
and that nuance only comes when you've done this work over and over and over again. And you can see the level of solution that they need. And maybe that is the different perspective that they need. So we were talking about what are the 3 ways that you can deliver a solution. It's a do-it-yourself type of solution where someone says, oh, okay, you have the knowledge I need to solve this problem. I just want access to your knowledge. Or done with you, which is like the coaching. We need access to your knowledge, and we need access to ask you questions and get coaching around solving the solution with us. Or the highest level, which is done for you. Okay, we need you to step in with your expertise, your knowledge, your skill set, your planning, your strategy, right? We need you to come in and solve this problem for us. So in how you solve your one problem, there's already 3 different ways that you can solve that problem, or 3 different solutions.
Yep. So and that's kind of where I was going with that, is to say that, the the do it yourself person just sees it as a surface level problem. And so they're like, I can do this myself. I just need the tools to do it. So tell me how to do it and I'm going to go do it myself. The do
Right.
it with you person is like, oh, I need a little bit more hand holding because I know what my problem is. And maybe I tried this and I tried that and it hasn't worked. So now I need you to do it with me so you can show me and then maybe I can do it myself next time. And then the done for you person is just overwhelmed and perhaps there's it's just too much and they just don't even know where to begin and they're like, this is a problem, I need it fixed. And or maybe they have other things that they have to focus on and they just need you to just step in and just get it done. And so again, you're solving the same problem, but on different levels in different ways. And that to me, as a business owner, doesn't stifle your creativity because sometimes when we feel like we're put into a box, we sort of get discouraged. And it, for me, it stifles my creativity. Then it starts to discourage me as a business owner. And it's like, what am I really doing? Do I want to keep doing? Like, I start to just question
Yeah. Yeah.
life.
It's so real. Like all of it. What am I doing here? Yeah, absolutely. And that is so true. That was probably one of my biggest issues with choosing what pathway, what problem am I solving? So the way I love both. There's creativity outlets in both. What do I do? Right. But when it comes, you're making a business plan. This isn't just like fulfilling what gives you warm fuzzies, but you've got to build an actual strategy around this. So you're served, and I want to go back to point number one, decision number one, which is choosing your problem that you solve. Don't choose a low level, nice to solve problem. Choose a hair on fire problem. Choose a problem where you are solving immediately for someone who feels true pain around it right now. Hair on fire or the starving crowd, right? So that's the type of problem that you are solving. You've got 3 different ways now that you can creatively solve that problem at 3 different levels. Third, probably the most important, honestly. The third core decision that you need to make is who is your target market? Who are you solving this problem for?
And that's going to help you figure out the hair on fire problem. So
Right.
that the hair on fire problem is going to lead you to your target audience. So
Or the other way around. You're going to find your target market and talk to them and figure out what their hair on problem or how they perceive their hair on fire problem. Yeah.
yep, and sometimes that can be a little tricky. And this is I think where people kind of get stuck.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
so yep, we've
Totally.
had our own issues with it,
Yeah.
both Nicole and myself, and we're always revising and reflecting, and then taking that information and then using it to sort of revamp the way that we do things, the offers that we have, because if it's not meeting the needs of the people who are fueling our business, then what's the purpose of doing it?
Yeah. Right. Right. Absolutely. And so I actually got these 4 kind of things you want to look at to identify your best target market from a business educator guru. His name is Alex Hermosi. And so he has 4 things that you need to look at in order to identify the best target market for you. So the first one is that the target market is easy to identify. So they have labels of some sort that you can search and find these types of people. So they're easy to identify. The second thing is that it's a growing market. Alex Hermosi actually gives a story of an entrepreneurial buddy that was doing ad agencies and marketing for newspapers. And he was like killing it. He was taking a huge market share, except for his target market was shrinking, right? Who is buying newspapers anymore? So do not pick a target market that is shrinking. Make sure it is growing. It's hard to, we don't have a crystal ball, but do the best you can in making sure that that market is growing. The third category or component you need to know in order to choose a target market is they have pain points. They have hair on fire pain points. This comes with conversations. This comes with doing a little bit of work with them, maybe doing some free work with them so you can have direct insight onto what is holding them up from getting to the goal that they want to. And the
Oh,
last,
I think that's important, Nicole, the free work, because when you think about it, right, you want to get paid, and of course you want to be paid for the work that you do. However, sometimes you have to take a step back. You have to see what the needs are, what is it that the people needed in order for you to do that. You may have to do a freebie here and there, and that's okay because it will pay for itself in the long run.
yeah, another proponent of go slow to go fast, right? The amount of information and insight you're going to get from that free work is going to skyrocket your next sales call. So go slow to go fast. The last and final or fourth component of choosing a target market is, do they have buying power? This was my problem actually with my first business model, is my target market was not a target market that had a lot of extra cash or didn't want to allocate cash to the problem I was solving. It definitely was a problem. It was definitely an identifiable market. It was a growing market, but they did not have buying power. So all four of these are paramount for choosing your target market. So choose one target market. You want to be a big fish in a small pond. Okay?
And then also think about too, if your target market is B2C, if you're selling directly to the consumer, a lot of times it's a lot easier that way as opposed to selling to the business, because businesses have many different decision makers. Sometimes it has to go through so many different approval levels. And then, especially if you are in the school system, like both Nicole and I were, that's just another level and layers upon layers of approval, approval, approval. So know your audience, what is required, what they're looking for. Make sure that you go in and solve the problem, solve it. Like don't there doesn't need to be any fluff. There doesn't need to
Mhm.
be any added extraness. Solve the problem, get to the point, and then talk to the decision makers who are going to make the decisions. And if you're going to business, if you're doing business to business, understand that it's going to be a little bit more of a longer process, but don't get discouraged because it will happen. You just have to continue to follow up, make sure that you stay in touch with the right people, and make sure that you are positioning yourself in a very, very strong and positive way. Again, that immediately solves the problem that they're having.
Oh, Winter's just so cute. She adds the cuteness level to this podcast for sure. Yes, I got distracted by her baby noises, but yes, absolutely. So doing that free work can help you answer a lot of these questions faster than not doing it. So although you are paying with your time, but you are gaining so much from it. If you look at how Warren Buffett's career started, he chose a harder path to learn from, um, versus one of his classmates that went kind of like the easier route at the time. And that education obviously paid off in dividends because he was willing to do that work for learning first. Okay. So the next decision you've got to make is determine your messaging. And this can feel very vague when I hear, like, what's your messaging? Like, what does that even mean? It's just why you are uniquely the person or the business to solve that problem. That is your unique positioning. So, why are you the best person or business to solve the problem for these people? And your messaging just needs to be consistent around that. Your messaging can also help you align or build your brand, which is just the values that people associate with your business. That's your brand. So consistency is the key for this. And you cannot be consistent if you didn't make those first three decisions. So that's why those decisions are first. What's the thing? What's the solution that you're offering? Who are you offering the solution to? Whose problem are you solving? When you have those three decisions, then your messaging and your branding can be so much more consistent. And therefore, you are establishing why you are uniquely fit to solve that problem. Okay.
Yeah. And I will say messaging is, like Nicole said, super important because if you're not consistent with your message, then people are going to be confused about what problem it is that you're actually solving. So be consistent. I would personally recommend investing in a branding coach or someone to help you establish a clear message, because again, sometimes it gets jumbled up in our heads, or sometimes we think, oh, people are going to love this, and they hate it. And so just having a second set of eyes, just
Yeah.
another person who's objective, that would say, I wouldn't invest in that if I were looking at this. And they would say, but I would invest in it if you did it this way. Boom, there
Mm,
you go.
yeah, it's so true. I worked with a lot of professors, and they had the curse of knowledge when it comes to whatever their subject is. That's the same thing for your own business. The way you look at the problem is not how your leads or potential clients are seeing the problem. So the way that your messaging has to be from helping them feel understood, right? Helping them feel heard, not how you are going to solve their problem. So a branding coach can definitely, and a messaging coach actually can help with articulating um, those things around having your client feel heard and understood. All right, so the final decision you've got to make in order to go slow to go faster is choose one channel. And I have a hard time with this, and I think a lot of people in digital businesses have a difficult time with this because there's so many platforms you can be on. But being everywhere is not what's most important. Being one place consistently is the most important. So, we talked about our favorite tools last time and how there are these social media platform tools that you can post one place and it goes everywhere. And maybe you get to that eventually. But if you're starting out and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to hone in and I'm going to be known for something very specific to very specific people, choose one channel and go hard.
And that's going to be your best bet. I think I mentioned this to you while we were planning it. Ellie Talks Money, Eliza Diop.
Yeah,
She created her $1 million business on going live on Instagram.
that's right.
That's how she started. And she tells you her whole story. She was newly divorced. She had 4 kids. She was in her mom's living room, and she got a computer and started going live and just telling people like how you can find business funding. These are things that she did for her corporate job, and she was laid off. And so she started revealing these secrets to the public, to people who are starting small businesses. And she's like $1 million mogul.
What I love about that so much is that she probably didn't have the best or the perfect backdrop. She probably didn't have the perfect camera. She didn't worry about, like, well, how am I going to go live on LinkedIn? And what about everyone on Facebook? And what about TikTok? She chose one channel. She solved one problem. And what I loved about that example is that she was explaining what she knew from her experience, not a what you should go do right now, but from your own experience, what have you figured out? What has worked for you or what has worked for your clients? So it was like what I do or what I did versus what you should do, right? So I that's a perfect example. She chose one channel, one target market, one problem that she was solving, in a way that she was solving that problem, she probably started just in education. And guess what? She probably did all those for free. She did all going live and sharing all these secrets, giving away those content for free. What'd she get in return? She learned a ton. She learned about her client. She learned about the problems she's solving. She learned about how they were articulating those problems. And so she probably sped up way faster in her business versus, well, I could do this and I could do this and I could talk to these people and I can be on these channels and I provide this solution and this solution and this solution. She chose one thing and she was consistent. That's it. I love that example. Okay, so let me do a quick recap here. One problem, the solution on how you solve the problem, your identifiable buying target market with a hair on fire problem, your one message, and your one channel. So go slow, make your decisions there so you can speed up your business journey. Let's talk about a couple roadblocks because we know about those. We know about that mindset, and that can really catch you up. And that's why we wanted to lay out what you have to figure out first if you want to have momentum. So, Spring, you actually said this first one, which was that scarcity mindset.
Yeah. So, first of all, there's enough for everybody, guys. There is enough room at the table for everyone to pull up a chair. And so don't ever think that you have to do all the things because, oh, if I don't do this, I don't know if I'm going to ever have another opportunity to do this or do that or blah, 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 blah. If it doesn't align with your message, if it doesn't align with your mission and your vision, it's okay to say no. It is okay. You don't have to do all the things because there is an opportunity out there that does align with what it is that you're trying to do. And so it's again about being clear on your message, about understanding what your problem is, and having that solution that you can rinse and repeat. So you're again not trying to do all the things because you don't have to, you know?
Yeah, you're right.
Look at AT&T. AT&T, they sell phones and they have internet. That's it. They're not trying to what's another company? They're not trying to be something that they're not, right? They stick to what they know and they just continue to do that really, really well. They've created partnerships with people that support that, like Apple with the phones, with Samsung with the phones. And so
partnerships. Yeah, that's actually a really good point, is that once you've made these 5 core decisions, then you're able to see what your lane is and who is adjacent on the other lane, who's serving the same people, but for a different problem, right? What do they need to do before they usually get to you? And who are they working with parallel when they are using a solution like yours? And who do they talk to after you have that solution solved? Right? So once you've made these decisions, you can actually start seeing all the connections to amplify what you're doing. It's when you're trying to do everything that you can't figure out where to go next, what to do next, who to talk to next. You can't see the connections. So another part of scarcity mindset that I want to point out is that if you are feeling like, oh, Nicole, Spring sounds great, but it's so hard for me to choose. Like, I'm a multi-passionate person. I love doing all the things. I can really solve so many problems. Or I love being on all the platforms. There's so many people. I don't want to exclude this group or that group. That's because you have a scarcity mindset. Like, deep down inside, you feel like you need to do all the things. You need to talk to everyone. You need to solve all the problems when you don't. Pick one thing for one person and one solution that you nail time and time again. That's all you need. That's all you need. So that scarcity mindset can definitely be a roadblock when it comes to making these core decisions, so that you're going to slow down, make these core decisions so that you actually have a clear path to continue on. Something I heard recently in another podcast, and forgive me, I think it was Modern Wisdom that they said this, but it was entrepreneur versus a wantrepreneur. And I just started cracking up because it feels like that in the beginning, that you're like, no, I'm an entrepreneur, but really you're just doing all the things and you're spinning your wheels as fast as you can. You're still a wantrepreneur. Until you are in a business position where you are making decisions, which means you are saying no to a lot of things, that is when you can actually transition from a wantrepreneur to an entrepreneur. And I am on that boat, people. I am not saying this to tell you all the things. I'm just trying to tell you that if you want to transition from a wantrepreneur to an entrepreneur, you've got to be able to make these decisions. That's going to start excluding, solving everyone's problem everywhere. Yeah. Too many options. Okay, the last roadblock that we're going to hit on today is that comparison bug. It's a disease.
Yes. And that, I will say, is probably the worst thing you can do to yourself. Because just because Nicole is at this particular point in her business doesn't mean that I should be at the same point that she is. We're two different people. We're serving two different markets. We're doing two different things. Everybody's journey is different. Winter agrees.
And everyone's season is different. Listen, I am in operations, so I get to dive into businesses and see what's really going on. And businesses go through seasons. Sometimes they are killing it and sometimes they are struggling. So even if it seems like they are so far along than you and they just have everything figured out and you're like so small of a fish in the same pond, why would you even bother? You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. So do not doubt yourself there. Additionally, everyone has a different position, right? So if I'm a really small fish in this area of, people who are already doing the same thing, I have a different unique positioning that I could serve those same clients in a different way. So if I'm, a solopreneur at the time, or I have a small team, I can tell leads, I can have a conversation with leads saying that, you really want to work with us because we are a boutique operation that can really hone in and just dive into your business and serve you to the 10th level versus this huge corporation or this huge business that has multiple clients coming at the same time and you're just a number to them, right? Same in inverse. That big corporation has a positioning that the smaller guy has. So everyone has a unique position. Lean into yours. That's all you need to do is lean into yours. Another thing about comparison is that this has actually really stopped me from making these decisions earlier on, is that I would dive in, I would do a ton of research, and I would find some experts in the area that I wanted to start working in. And I would think to myself, well, why am I going to start? She or he is already doing what I want to do. And so maybe there's not room for me, as Spring said. But really what that just tells you is that it's a viable vehicle. If you find people who are doing what you want to do and they are doing it successfully for over a long period of time, that is a good sign.
That's a very good sign.
Yeah.
Look at what they're doing. What are they doing? How are they able to sustain for this long? And then you don't have to do exactly what they're doing, but take the best parts of it. Yeah. Take the best parts of it. I was thinking about, so here goes my HR background, right? I was thinking about when you were talking about the big corporation versus the small boutique, the solopreneur versus the corporate, right? So I was thinking about ADP. ADP essentially first began to serve small businesses. They began so that small businesses had a way of keeping their HR in order, right? And so I remember this was like probably 10 years ago or so when I worked with them. You had one person that you worked with. They could do all the things for you. The implementation was easy because you had one person during the implementation that walked you through every single part of the process, whatever it was, whether it was payroll, whether it was benefits, whether it was the HR system itself, whatever it was, you had this one person by your side the whole time. Well, fast forward now, 10 years later, I helped a company recently do an ADP implementation. It was a nightmare. And I was like, this is not the ADP that I remember. Um,
Mm,
so
mhm.
this example is going to touch on a lot of different things that we talked about today,
Right.
because the ADP that I remember was for the small business. They were they existed, or they started to address issues that small businesses had. A lot of small businesses, you have one person wearing many hats. And so HR sort of falls to the wayside. So they created their product so that it could be sort of a one-stop shop for the small business,
Right.
so that that was one less thing on their plate. Well, now, and you had that one person by your side the whole time that you could call on, whenever you were having an issue. Well, now, um, they have their implementation. There's like a team of people. And so there's like five different people that you're working with. You get bounced around during the implementation phase. And now they have this thing called self service, where they're telling you what to do and how to do it. And it is so confusing. It's not simple the way that it used to be. Um,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
so it's like they kind of lost what it was that they existed for. They
Yeah,
lost
this
their,
happens.
yeah,
It
you
definitely
know,
happens in that growth period. And listen, if we're saying like hone in really small, really tight, get your vision clear, so you can serve, like she was saying, ADP. If you can serve one target market for this specific problem, you know your client inside and out, right? You know their problem, you know how to serve them. But every company that goes really big eventually has to widen their lens. And during that time, they have some growth pains. And that's probably what ADP is going through. They're trying to solve or provide that solution at three different levels. They don't have all the kinks worked out yet. And so
at
they're
all.
losing, they are losing kind of that client satisfaction because maybe they went too big too fast. We don't really know. But what we're saying is, it feels so good for your client when they feel like you understand them and that your solution is solving their specific problem and how they see that problem. So, comparison, like we were saying, if you see people in your market doing what you want to do for a long period of time successfully, that's a good thing. That is a good thing. Run with it. And another thing I heard from I don't know, another podcast somewhere, I'm sure, but it was like, don't be cute. Meaning, if you have a blueprint, if someone gives you a blueprint, coach, whatever, if you have a blueprint on someone's who've tested something over and over and over and over again, and they've done it over and over and over again, and they have the same result over and over and over again, and you have the blueprint of it, and you're like, oh, I think I'll do a little bit of this and a little bit of that. I'm going to do my own thing. You're going to lose all their years of testing that they've done. So don't be cute. Follow their blueprint. If they have a successful blueprint, follow it. So you want to do what they're doing before you start iterating, before you start changing what they're doing. So that's just a little side note. I don't want to go off on a tangent on that. I've just seen that happen way too many times. That someone is giving you their blueprint after years of testing all the different ways they have done something, and they finally found a successful solution. And people are like, oh, I'll do a little bit of it.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I mean that's important for you to mention because they put in all of this time. So if you've decided already that you're going to listen to what this person has to say, you've decided that this person, is worth following, is worth, um, sort of recreating the magic that they have, displayed, then follow it to the T, because those exact things that they did, that's what got them to where they are. And that's what's keeping them where they are. So don't, like Nicole said, don't get cute. If you have the blueprints to a house, you're not going to say, oh, well, I need this wall to be just a little bit bigger. So I'm just going to change it when we start building. No, because then you might throw off the whole house and the house might cave in. So don't get cute. Do it
Yeah.
exactly the way that they've laid it out.
Until you have the success that they have, do not change. So that's kind of where we want to wrap up today's call episode, around when you've made your 5 decisions, now you can put in your time, right? Now is where your experience starts when it comes to solving this problem for this specific group of people in this certain way over and over and over again. You need all of that repetition to really understand those small nuances that makes you different than other people who are solving that problem. So once you've made these decisions, now you can go fast. Now you can do that same thing over and over again. You can put in your time so that you can truly be an expert in that area, right? So our call to action for you today is make your 5 choices. And if you're on the fence, look at me, make a decision. This is what I had to hear. Make a decision. Stop being a wantrepreneur and make a decision. The next thing is put in your time. It may take longer than you had ever expected. Just know you've got to put in your time. Okay. And the last call to action for today is join a community who's doing this too. You don't have to do this by yourself, right? It can feel very lonely and you're going to have emotional ups and downs as you go through this journey. And what has truly helped Spring and I is finding communities of women, of mamas who are doing the dang thing. They're doing it with you. They're in their own lane. They're solving their own problems, right, for their specific clients, but they know what you're doing and they understand it with some nuance.
I agree. I have nothing to add. So I'm telling you guys, you can join us on Facebook, the Mompreneur Playbook. We are giving tips and dropping gems. So I'm telling you, if we can do it, you can do it. And we are here to support you in that journey. Just a side note, guys, I am actually at a conference right now in this moment doing this podcast. And so I'm telling you, if we can make it work and we can figure it out and do it, we of course we're special, right? We feel like we're special. We're special in our own way, but you're special too, and you can do this as well. And we want to support you in building your dreams out because, as Nicole always says, you can be a mom and.
That's right. Period. Period. All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your week. We are rooting for you, and we'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.